Good evening and welcome to the Pioneer Sideline. I'm your host, Blaine King. Tonight, we will discuss how the Steelers had another dominating performance this week against the New York Jets. We will also review the first 5 weeks of the NFL season. We have to look into how October baseball is shaping up, especially with our predictions from last week. And of course, we have our Pioneer Sports. And that's where we will get started at. The men's soccer team hit the road this weekend to get rid of their road demons they have this year. Josh Krupp is in studio to tell us if those demons continued or were the men able to get their first road win of the year.
Well, Blaine, if you thought you had a rough weekend, it probably wasn't as rough as the Point Park men's soccer team. The Pioneers fell twice on the road this weekend, both in overtime, and both against River State's conference opponents. Point Park was coming off a 2-1 victory against Cincinnati Christian the previous weekend after falling to Asbury 3-2 in overtime just a few days prior. Their momentum didn't carry them to Kentucky, at least for the offense. Point Park failed to get on the scoreboard against Midway University in its first match of the weekend Thursday night. The Pioneers' defense held Midway scoreless through 90 minutes and forced overtime. Point Park only managed 8 total shots against Midway, 2 of which were on goal. Midway scored the game winner in the 94th minute to net the 1-0 victory. Point Park then traveled to Brescia University, still in search of that first road win. Things were looking up for Point Park when Alan Ramos punched his 9th goal of the season into the back of Brescia's net in the 24th minute. But with 22 minutes left in regulation, Brescia tied the game and forced overtime. Very late in overtime, 110 minutes in, Brescia handed Point Park yet another overtime loss with a late golden goal. Brescia outshot the Pioneers 13-10 en route to a 2-1 victory. Point Park's now 1-3 in RSC play, with 3 of those losses coming in overtime. It was the 5th overtime loss of the season for the Pioneers, who now stand at 0-4-1 in road contests and 4-6-1 overall. Point Park travels to Rochester in Michigan for a non-conference match before hosting Ohio Christian in its last RSC game of the season.
Josh, I feel like I ask this every week, but what's going on with the men's team on the road? They continue to have struggles.
Your guess is as good as mine. The offense isn't there. I will give credit to Manuel Piger in net. The freshman goalkeeper from Germany has played outstanding. We've seen that in the stats. He was able to hold these 2 opponents over the weekend to just 3 goals in the 2 games. The offense isn't getting it done. Alan Ramos is the only one getting anything done. They're not a really disciplined team either. Roberto Whitley had a red card a couple weeks ago that sat him out for 2 games. And the team always seems to come away with a couple yellow cards or red cards in these games. And so the discipline isn't there, the offense isn't there, and the road doesn't help because you got to get on a bus and go to middle of nowhere Kentucky just to lose in overtime. It's crushing.
That's very true, Josh. Also, this team is now 1-3 in River State's conference play. This is something that we're not used to seeing. What did this team need to do to make that record better besides winning?
Winning would solve the issues, but I don't see that coming very soon, Blaine. You got West Virginia Tech, you got Rio Grande in a couple weekends on a huge road trip. Both teams nationally ranked. Rio's the defending national champions. Point Park's not going to host a playoff game at home this year. It's not going to happen because they're not going to be in good enough positioning to be able to do that in the River State's conference tournament. They just need to kind of survive until the tournament, because if they can do that, anything happens in tournament time. Winning on the road and winning period in River State's conference play, almost irrelevant at this point since they got off to this rough 1-3 start. But who knows, come tournament time, like I said, just need to survive this regular season and make it out alive.
Thanks, Josh. While the men have been having road struggles, the women seem to erase their struggles that plagued them at the start of this year. Megan Masiosi joins me with the information on the women.
Thanks, Blaine. The women's soccer team had a huge win, picking up 2 conference wins this weekend. On Thursday, the Pioneers traveled to Midway, Kentucky to take on Midway University. The Pioneers got off to a quick start, scoring 2 goals in the first 10 minutes. The first goal came from freshman midfielder Nikki Pollins in the 9th minute, and the second goal came from senior Simone Keebler in the 10th minute. The Pioneers dominated the Bearcats' side of the field for most of the game. Returning to the lineup was freshman goalkeeper Rebecca Cohen, who didn't let in any of the 5 shots that she faced. By halftime, the Pioneers were up 2-0, and in the second half, the Pioneers sealed their win with a goal from junior midfielder Izzy Hunter. The Pioneers ended up winning 3-0. They kept up their high energy as they took on Brescia University on Saturday. The Pioneers dominated the Bearcats, winning 5-0. The Point Park defense came to play as they only allowed one shot on net in 90 minutes of play. The Pioneers started off the game with another goal from Nikki Pollins. 10 minutes later, the Bearcats were out of position and scored on themselves to put the Pioneers up 2-0. A minute later, junior midfielder Katie Melush scored to put the Pioneers up 3-0 to end the half. In the second half, the Pioneers put the game out of reach with 2 goals back-to-back. Juniors Alex Gradwell and Bella Wilson each added a goal to solidify the Point Park win. The Pioneers ended up winning 5-0, and this was their third game with a shutout in conference play. The Pioneers moved to 4 wins, 6 losses, and 2 ties, and 3 wins and 1 loss in the conference play. Their next game will be Saturday, October 15th at 2:30 at Highmark Stadium, where they look to continue their winning streak.
Megan, the women seem to be finding their niche right now. Do you think they can keep this up, even going into conference play?
I do, because they won twice on the road in Kentucky, which going on the road and not having your fan base is always really hard. So I believe that since they got that, their confidence is up, they're starting to score, that they're going to do well.
Cool. Especially, yes, like you mentioned, they should do well, especially going into the conference tournament. They have found their niche. Now, another thing is their offense is starting to step up. Last week it was their defense. Now we're starting to see their offense step up. How big of a difference is this, that their offense is now finally getting on their groove?
It's really big for them, because in the first couple of games that were non-conference, they only had 3 shots out of like 3 or 4 games. So I think playing the non-conference games has definitely allowed them to do better and have the offense be more up to speed with their in-conference games.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Megan. As we had to break, we're going to find out if the volleyball team continued their 7-game winning streak, and also what's going on in the NFL. We have the story on that once we get back.
We are a social people. We share our inspiration, wisdom, creations, and memories. We share what makes us laugh and what angers us. Built on the notion of a free flow of ideas, our country thrives on the freedom of speech. Without it, who would watch over our governing powers? And how would we share our history to make a difference for the future? It's this freedom to share that gives us a reason to listen.
All right, guys, any questions on the script? We good to go?
Yep. Right. Should be good.
All right, great.
Cool.
All right, yeah, camera 3 set up right there. Camera 2, use the ball when you're moving this around, but set up for the 2 shots just right there. Weather, how we doing?
It gon' rain.
Perfect.
Welcome back to Daybreak. I'm Sarah Mackin with your The real host, Adrian Billon, was seen snuggled up.
All right, prompter, we got everything in, we're good to go? Key Pro, everything loaded, we're good to go? All right, Tyler, any questions?
That shot looks fine.
3, 2, 1. Bring up camera 2. Open mics. Cue talent.
Good morning and welcome to Daybreak. I'm Blaine King.
Thanks for tuning in. I'm Aubrey Henkin.
And I'm Aaron Myler.
And this is Entertainment on Point.
Beyonce has surprised us again.
Kanye West just tweeted,
"This was a huge weekend at the box office.
A fan favorite TV show just got canceled.
Guess what band is coming to the city?" And the award went to...
But did you see her engagement ring?
Her outfit was awful.
I would fire her stylist.
Tune in for all of your Hollywood gossip and pop culture news.
Entertainment on Point.
Get into the point of pop culture.
Back. The volleyball team is on fire, and we're looking to be on a 10-game winning streak by the end of this past weekend. Mike Turk is here if the women were able to do that.
Last Tuesday night, Point Park Volleyball hit the road to Ohio Christian, looking to keep their winning streak alive and their conference record perfect. Behind Emily Meng's double-double of 24 assists and 12 digs and middle blocker Nikki Incortano's 8 kills, the Pioneers managed to sweep Ohio Christian 25-16, 25-18, and 25-19. Over the weekend, they drove to Rio Grande to battle the Red Storm and West Virginia Tech. The Pioneers would keep their winning streak alive with a 3-0 sweep over West Virginia Tech to make it 9 in a row, but that would come to an end after a heartbreaking loss to Rio Grande. The loss to Rio gave Point Park their first conference loss of the season. It was the first loss for this team in over a month. Their last loss came on September 6th when they lost at IUP. Point Park won the first set 25-18, but Rio won set number 2 25-22. In a crucial set 3, though, Point Park won 25-23, but the Pioneers couldn't finish off the Red Storm, and Rio went on to win the last 2 sets and the match by the scores of 25-23 and 15-6. In Cortano, Ashley Taylor and Shiloh Simonson had 12 kills each. Meng recorded 45 assists, and Ashley Taylor had a team-high 16 digs. With the loss, Point Park is now 12-13 overall and 8-1 in conference play. Despite the loss to Rio, Point Park still leads the division by 3.5 games over IU East, who is 4-4 in conference play, and Rio Grande, who is 3-3 in conference play. The Pioneers are off until Saturday when they play Cincinnati Christian at home at noon. That will be senior day for the Pioneers.
Mike, does the loss to Rio Grande mean anything since it was close throughout the entire game? And like I said, went 5 sets, and this team, they battled Rio Grande all the time. So does this loss actually mean anything besides just a loss in the loss column?
Absolutely not. They played them in the Battle of the Boulevard when they came here. Point Park lost 3-1. Then Rio came back to Rio Grande came back to Point Park, and the Pioneers won that one 3-1. And now Point Park went to Rio and lost 3-2. So if this pattern keeps going, Point Park's going to win the 4th time they meet in the conference tournament and win 3-2. But no, this helps the team, if anything at all. It gave them a shot at their character and seeing how they can play in these tight matches.
Now, this team had a 9-game winning streak until they ran into Rio Grande. But do you think this team has the ability now to make a deep conference tournament run?
Absolutely. In preseason, I picked this team to win the conference this year. I have this much faith in them after covering them last year into covering them this year. They're a lot stronger than they were last year. And they made it to the conference championship last year when they lost to IU Kokomo, but still earned a bid to the national tournament. I expect them to win the conference this year and earn that bid again to the national tournament. You look up front, you got Nikki Cortano. She is number 1 in the conference in total blocks. Then you have Ashley Taylor, who's in the top 10 in blocks. In the back row, you have a healthy Morgan D'Angelo at libero, but we have seen her go down with a concussion a few times this year. And you saw the next man up mentality with Julia Minosky, who stepped up wonderfully for Point Park this year. They have a deep roster this year, and I also expect them to make a deep run.
Thanks, Mike. Now, Megan Masiosi joins me here at the desk again to discuss everything that has happened in the NFL in the first 5 weeks. So, Megan, give me your surprise team or teams so far that you have.
My first surprise team is probably the Minnesota Vikings. They're 5-0. Despite losing their starting quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater, and their starting running back, Adrian Peterson. Sam Bradford came in week 2. You know, I think he's still trying to figure out the playbook, figure out this team altogether.
Yes.
And they're my biggest surprise team. Their defense has been a lot better than what I had anticipated to begin with.
Right.
And so they're my first surprise team. My second one is the Atlanta Falcons. They're 4-1. In the last 2 weeks, they've beaten the 2 teams in the Super Bowl last year.
Panthers.
They went into Denver and beat Denver, which I thought was incredible. Division game versus the Panthers. And they're my 2 biggest surprising teams, honestly.
Awesome. Yeah, I would agree with you. Minnesota's very surprising, especially with a 5-0 record. Sam Bradford at quarterback. The most shocking thing is their offense, how they're producing without Teddy Bridgewater and without Adrian Peterson. Their defense, we all knew, was elite. Now, for any disappointing teams.
My biggest, I think, disappointment team right now is the San Francisco 49ers. They've been in the media a lot because of Colin Kaepernick, and just they were switching between Blaine Gabbert, and now Colin Kaepernick is starting his upcoming weekend that came out today from Chip Kelly. But they're 1-4, and I kind of had some faith in them when they shut out the LA Rams the first week, but after that, they've just been falling apart.
Yeah, the 49ers, granted, we kind of knew what kind of team they were going to probably be because their offense they don't have any explosive parts, quarterback situation issues, coaching issues with Chip Kelly and how he does not want to adjust to the league, and defensive issues. That team has really gone very down since Jim Harbaugh left. Now, Rookie of the Year. There's been quite a few rookies that have been impressing, that have really been impressing here in the NFL. What are your Rookie of the Year candidates so far?
So far, I have Eagles quarterback, which I know you'll love, is Carson Wentz.
Woohoo.
He has thrown for over 1,000 yards already, and they had a bye week, so he's only been in 4 games. So he's averaging about 252 yards. He's had 2 fumbles and an interception, but he's a rookie, so I understand that. And then my other one is Ezekiel Elliott. He's currently leading the league right now
in rushing,
and he has 5 touchdowns. And I didn't even think Dallas was going to be that big of a force this year, but they are more than what I thought, and I really have to credit to Elliott.
Yes, and another thing is, I would hate to admit it, but another candidate I would have to say is Dak Prescott, the way he is anchoring the Dallas Cowboys offense, the way he is leading them down the field. It's very surprising. This was a 4th-round draft pick from Mississippi State. We saw what he could produce in college at Mississippi State, but what he's doing in the NFL right now is it's some great stuff. Now, our last question, possible MVP candidates.
The only one right now I'm really seeing is Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he got Jordy Nelson back, which is his favorite person to throw to, which means Randall Cobb's going to have the lesser of the 2 cornerbacks, so to say. So he got open more. He played incredible Sunday night against the Giants. He was definitely used more than I think Jordy Nelson was. So right now I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers as long as he can stay healthy. And the Packers have one of the easiest schedules this year.
Yes. Aaron Rodgers, previous MVP, 2-time MVP he was. I see his stock rising. Some people say he's struggling right now. I agree a little bit, but once he starts getting in the groove, yes. Others are saying Matt Ryan. If I have to say one person to watch out for, it has to be Ben Roethlisberger also. I think that he is going to put up some big numbers this year. But
I have to agree with you on that.
But thanks, Megan. We'll again look into the NFL season the further we get down there. And coming up, which Steeler scored his first NFL career touchdown? And did the Pioneer sideline curse strike again? Find out which baseball team suffered our kiss of death when we return from break.
Here on the Pioneer Sideline, we talk a lot about sports in the studio, but it's beforehand when the conversation is actually interesting.
I hope I have enough powder on. I don't want to be too shiny on camera.
No, Trevor, I think it looks good every week you pull it off.
Ah, thanks, Phil. Man, your hair looks great tonight, by the way.
You sure? Yeah, I mean, I got a new haircut, but it looks alright.
Hey, guys. Does this make me look fat?
No, you look great. You look good. Yeah, Kyle. Thanks, I was really...
Sports! Yeah!
Ever wanted to be behind the mic and have the world listening to your show on campus? Well, it's just as simple as joining WPPJ, Point Park's student-run radio station, located on the 2nd floor of Lawrence Hall, right next to the dining services. Listeners can tune in using Point Park's website or through the TuneIn app by searching WPPJ. WPPJ welcomes any new DJs that want to get involved, so be heard. Do you have what it takes?
Well, no one showed up to the show tonight. Follow my lead. In 3, 2, take 2, open mics, Q Talent. Good evening and welcome to UView News. I'm Josh Krupp. We begin with breaking news out of West Penn Hall. Ready, 3, take lower 3rd. Traffic is backed up in the West Penn elevator line after elevator 1 broke down on the 7th floor. Lose lower 3rd. Maintenance advises students to take the stairs to avoid delays. Ready, 2, take 2. In other news, no, you know what? I didn't sign up for this. We need crew. Join UView. Take alien hand transition.
The Steelers look to have another dominating performance this weekend against the New York Jets. Ashley Morris has the story on that and how the game went and more in our regional report.
Thanks, Blaine. The Steelers dominated Heinz Field on Sunday when they beat the New York Jets 31-13. Since the return of Le'Veon Bell, the Steelers have averaged 37 points per game. On Sunday, Sammy Coates scored his first NFL touchdown on a 72-yard pass in the first quarter and scored another touchdown in the fourth quarter. But he also dropped 3 passes from Ben Roethlisberger. Jesse James and Antonio Brown had touchdown catches too. A total of 9 players were ruled out of the game against the Jets on Sunday, including safety Shamarko Thomas, wide receiver Sammy Coates, linebacker Jarvis Jones, and defensive end Cameron Hayward, all leaving the game with injuries. For the third time in his career, Roethlisberger threw for 380 or more yards with at least 4 touchdown passes and no interceptions. The Pittsburgh Penguins ended their preseason with a 5-3 loss against the Columbus Blue Jackets on October 8th. Scott Wilson made quite an impact on the preseason as he registered 5 points in just 5 games. However, Penn's captain Sidney Crosby made no appearance in the preseason as a result of the World Cup of Hockey and an illness. It was announced on Monday that he is now out due to a concussion. The Penguins held their first Fan Fest on October 9th, where the players could meet and interact with their fans. Some events included autograph sessions, locker room tours, and hockey skill challenges. The Fan Fest was a great way to get fans excited when the Penguins kick off this season against the Washington Capitals on Thursday.
Ashley, do you believe the Steelers can possibly get any better than they actually already are?
I think, yeah, definitely there's room for improvement. I mean, they have lost one game. They're certainly not 5-0 like the Vikings. But I think also with the injuries that they have right now, I think once those players come back, that'll also show a dominating team on the field.
And speaking of injuries, how big are these injuries that are happening to the Steelers? Should it be a concern right now? Even though they're small, minor injuries, could this lead to something even bigger?
I mean, Blaine, I told you last week that it wasn't that big of a concern, but being halfway through the season now, I think it is a little more of a concern, especially since there were a total of 9 players out on Sunday. So I think it's a little more of a concern now than what it would have been at the beginning of the season because we're getting so deep into now.
Awesome. And how big of a concern should the Penguins have regarding Sidney Crosby concussion?
I'd say no concern at all, honestly. It's not always the best to start your season off with your captain being out, but he's day-to-day now. I don't think it'll be a huge concern on the Penguins. They have some dominant players. You got Malkin, you got Letang. I think they'll be just fine.
Thanks, Ashley. Last week, we made a few predictions regarding the chase for the World Series, and Sarah Macklin will now join me on what's going on in the playoffs and our National Sports Report.
MLB postseason play continued this week with the National American League Divisional Series. In the American League, the Toronto Blue Jays beat the Texas Rangers Sunday night 7-6 in the 10th inning to complete the series sweep. The Cleveland Indians also finished up their series with a 3-game sweep, defeating the Boston Red Sox last night by a final score of 5-4. The Indians will have home field advantage in the American League Championship Series against the Blue Jays. On the other hand, the National League Championship Series matchup still remains unknown as of tonight. The Washington Nationals defeated the Los Angeles Dodgers yesterday afternoon by a score of 8-3, giving them a 2-1 series lead. Game 4 between the two teams began earlier tonight with the first pitch at 5 o'clock. The winner of the series will go on to face either the Chicago Cubs or the San Francisco Giants. The Giants won in walk-off fashion last night in the bottom of the 13th inning against the Cubs to force a Game 4. Game 4 will take place tonight at 8:30 with the Cubs holding a 2-1 series lead. Now on to a sport that's just getting started. The NHL regular season will kick off tomorrow night when the Toronto Maple Leafs visit the Ottawa Senators with the puck drop at 7 o'clock. 6 other teams will also make their season debuts Wednesday night, with the rest of the 22 teams playing their openings later in the week. The Blue Jays and Indians beat probably the best 2 teams in the American League.
Yes, they did, and they beat the best 2 leagues in the American League. And do you think this is going to be a big American League championship series for both teams? Because this is Toronto, who went there last year, and this was their second time there since 1993. And Cleveland, we know their Cleveland struggle, so this is their first time, since the 90s. So how big is this?
I think this is a huge game. I think it's going to be a great series. You got 2 very high-powered offenses. The Blue Jays both coming off sweeps, and a lot of people, including everyone here, picked the Boston to win it all. So that was definitely, I think they're both coming off big momentum series, but I look for Cleveland to maybe edge them out a little bit.
Awesome. And the Dodgers, we're potentially going to have a Dodgers and Cubs NLCS matchup because the Dodgers right now, they're up on the Nationals 5-2, and the Cubs, they play later on tonight. But do you think that the Giants or the Nationals could kind of come back and shock? Which team do you think could shock the team they're playing the most?
I'm definitely going to have to go with the Giants there because I don't think the Nationals have as strong of a team as the Giants do. I mean, granted, the Giants are playing the better team, I think, in that position in the Cubs, but I think the Giants have more, they have that momentum, they have that experience to possibly take one from the Cubs.
Cool. All right, thanks, Sarah, and don't go too far yet because last week, like I mentioned, we made our playoff predictions for the major leagues and for the World Series, and it turns out we gave the kiss of death to some teams. In our case of this week, we are going to look at those predictions and make another prediction as well.
Did you know that Point Park has a cheerleading squad?
Don't get it confused.
Not only do our cheerleaders represent Point Park at regional and national competitions, but they also promote spirit and awareness of every sports team on campus. Come to any men's or women's varsity basketball game at home to watch the cheerleaders perform at halftime and cheer from the sidelines from the first jump ball to the final buzzer. Sports not your thing? You can catch the cheer team lead the crowd at the fall and spring pep rallies as well, or at several competitions around Pittsburgh each year. So what are you waiting for? Show the Point Park cheerleaders the support they show you.
Every human being has a purpose, has a dream to have their voices heard, no matter where they come from, no matter where they go. As an American, it is their right to have freedom of speech. I have a dream that one day this message will speak louder than words, that even the quietest voice will not go unnoticed. That is my dream. What is yours? For more information, visit www.freedomofspeechpsa.org.
We are back, and it's that time of the show again for our Cases of the Week. Joining me for a second week in a row is Sarah Macklin, Rob Gomez, and Josh Croup. Well, gang, let's get started with an apology. Sarah, on behalf of Josh and on behalf of Rob, we apologize for making fun of you for choosing the Toronto Blue Jays to beat the Baltimore Orioles. We highly apologize for that.
Yeah, I accept your apology.
You don't get an apology from me. I'm
yeah,
not sorry.
It's okay.
All
right.
You gave the kiss of death, Blaine.
Yes. All right. Let's start.
Oh man.
All right. Let's start. We we did give the kiss of death to the Boston Red Sox, and
my heart.
They they got swept. They didn't even lose. They got swept by the Cleveland Indians. So we need to change up our predictions right now. We have an Indians, Blue Jays, ALCS, and Rob, I'm sorry, it's looking like your Giants are going to lose. They won last night.
You can't count them out until that last out. Okay? You can't count them out.
I think we can.
10-0 in elimination games. Let's make it 11-12. How about that? 11-12.
Highly doubt that. So, are we changing up our predictions now?
Well, I guess we have to because Boston's out. We picked Boston. You had San Francisco, so I guess you're technically still alive.
Mine's still in there. My prediction is still in there.
I'm going to take Toronto's Chicago, and I really hope Toronto can beat Chicago because I want nothing more than to see Chicago lose in the World Series and get their hearts ripped out. I like a couple of the guys on the teams, but the team itself I do not like. So I'm going Toronto. I like what they got there. You don't like Toronto, though.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Toronto. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's a tough series with the Indians and the Blue Jays because they both have high-powered offenses. I like the pitching staff better on the Indians than I do the Blue Jays, but the Blue Jays' offense is just crazy good. Like, you look at the other night when they completed the sweep, they walked Encarnacion just to get Jose Bautista coming up to bat. Like, you can't win there.
You can't win that line.
You cannot pitch around that.
It's so stacked. You forget Tulo's on the team too. Tulo.
Yeah, man.
Even Russell Martin too. He's not power guy, but he's a productive hitter. But I'm actually going with the Indians taking this one out. I think the pitching staff is going to actually hold strong. You know, they have the back end of that bullpen has like a 2.17 ERA. They're just, don't forget Kluber. Kluber is filthy, right?
And they got to go and win in Toronto, and I think Toronto will be the more hostile atmosphere.
I don't disagree with that, but you know what? I think it's going to go Cleveland in 7 with home field advantage going to Cleveland.
That would be fun for baseball.
Cleveland
in 7.
Oh my God, that'd be crazy.
I agree. I agree, and we're sticking with our NL predictions: Cubs,
yeah.
Giants. He's going to change. He's gonna change
it's not changing. It's not changing. It's the Giants. Even year. All right. Well, I'll let you guys go.
I was so close to celebrating last night, too, whenever the Cubs almost got swept, because that was my prediction.
I think it's going to be the Cubs and the Indians as well, and I think it's going to somebody's going to have their heart broken. Somebody is. Who it is?
It's going to be the Cubs.
I love watching sad fans cry.
Or the Cubs. All right. Now, let's jump ship to another league that's getting ready to start. Hockey, we need to make our predictions. Let's hope we don't give the kiss of death again, because if we do, we have some major issues. So, who is going to make the Stanley Cup Finals from both leagues?
I'm going to give my kiss of death to Tampa. The Tampa Bay Lightning are going to beat the Nashville Predators in the Stanley Cup Final. That's my pick. So both teams, you're going to have horrible seasons. Sorry, Steven Stamkos.
I also have the Lightning because, like he brought up, Steven Stamkos is returning, and they have almost their entire roster from that small Stanley Cup playoff run they had last year. So I think they're definitely going to be the one to beat. And then I have the Blackhawks.
You want a bold prediction?
Oh God.
Hey, repeat.
Here we go.
Repeat of 2015 Stanley Cup. San Jose versus the Pittsburgh Penguins.
That was 2016.
Yes.
That's what I said, isn't it?
No, you said 15.
I heard 15, bro.
I'm in different years. But anyways.
He only thinks in even numbers. The Giants fans only think in even numbers.
That's not terrible, though, because you look at the Penguins. They have
the Penguins did the same thing with the Detroit Red Wings in 08 and 09.
Chicago needs scoring from someone other than Patrick Kane, though, and I do not like Patrick Kane, so I'm a little biased there, but they need scoring from someone other than him. I think Tampa has a very deep roster. They got a good youth core. They also got a lot of returning veterans that are going to help them out. Nashville, PK Subban, what an acquisition for that team over the summer. That's why I got Nashville. Sorry, Chicago. And sorry, Nashville, I guess, too.
Nashville was definitely on the uprise towards the end of last year and
that
going into the playoffs.
James Neal, too, in the back there.
Yes.
You know what?
Alrighty, so.
I'm sticking with them.
Of course. Alrighty.
Whatever.
Well, I want to thank you guys for joining me today, and I want to thank all the crew and all the reporters we've had on the Pioneer Sideline today. Thanks for joining us, and again, tune in for another episode of the Pioneer Sideline. We hope you join us again next week as we look into see how the Pens fared in their season opener and how the Steelers played against the Miami Dolphins. Also, we will look at how actually even out the River State's conference play tournament is coming out to be for our Pioneer sports, for soccer and the volleyball. So join me again next week at the same time, same Pioneer time, the same Pioneer place, and of course, the same Pioneer Sideline.